Hey strangers, welcome to the Veil. You can call me Kay. A few updates since I saw you last. First, I got a tattoo. I got the color done yesterday and I absolutely love how it looks, but it hurts so bad. Like horrible sunburns. But it's got this beautiful Egyptian cobra with a thistle and butterflies and St. John's wort and dandelions and there you go. Other update, the skirt. The skirt for Comic Con with all the skulls. It is coming along. I'm very, very happy with it. So there's that. Okay, I have a couple of topics today. Um, as promised, because I think I've mentioned this topic a couple of times. Liquid mercury. Y'all, it's so interesting. Uh, yeah, and there's so much about it that I don't have a like solid focus. There we go. We can words today. I don't have a solid focus for the liquid mercury topic. It's just really neat. Um, it's also called quicksilver, or liquid silver, and it's a very interesting thing. It's really dense, like steel will float on top of it. And for a very long time, people believed that it would cure like melancholy and it would cure syphilis. Like that was the belief. There were even some Chinese, what's the word? My brain just broke. Um, Emperors. There we go. Again, we can English. There were some Chinese emperors who believed that it would like make you immortal, and so there were some people. This also happened in Egypt, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, where there were some emperors and kings who thought that it would make them immortal, and so they would drink it, which obviously is not the best idea because that leads to death, and insanity. There are a lot of cases where mercury, they used to use it when making hats. And the people who would make hats were in these really enclosed spaces with not a lot of airflow, and they would inhale this mercury and they would go a bit crazy. And so, Mad as a Hatter, the Mad Hatter, that comes from liquid mercury. Um, and what was the other? There was also, oh, I think it was in Mexico, they found some ancient ruins that had like pools of liquid mercury, which is really neat. It's like throughout history, it's been a very interesting thing that just kind of pops up with a lot of ancient cultures because it is such a kind of otherworldly type of a thing. I also thought it was interesting because in Rome, the god for um, like delivering messages and speed is Mercury, similar to or based on the Greek god Hermes. And Mercury was named after the planet, which supposedly is connected to liquid mercury, but the god of speed, which I thought was really interesting because also in the X-Men there is a character named Quicksilver who is very fast. So all the names come together, which is extremely fun, and I just think that's neat. Um, But yes, this also throughout this led me to a very interesting looking book. I haven't read it yet. I read one chapter of it because I found the chapter online. It's a book called Quackery, a brief guide to the worst ways of curing everything, or something along those lines. I'll type up that title and put it in the notes for this. But I've ordered it so that I can read it. It just sounds really interesting. And then while looking for that, I also ended up getting this book, which is called Wicked Plants, The A to Z of Plants That Kill, Maim, Intoxicate, and Otherwise Offend by Amy Stewart. So that's on my reading list next. And it's just so pretty. But there you go. So that was one of my topics as I've been researching that for a couple of weeks. Like I said, it's a bit hard to find like one solid thing about liquid mercury because you can learn about liquid mercury as an element, you can learn about it in like lore in ancient cultures and what it meant, you can learn about all of the horrible side effects that come from being around liquid mercury. It's also used in a lot of different things like thermometers and light bulbs, and it's it's fascinating. It's so interesting, but there's a lot of it. The other thing that I've been researching, I went on a hike was it a month ago? I don't know. I went on a hike the other day. The other day could be anywhere from 10 years ago to yesterday, but it was the other day. Um, and I went on this hike, and throughout the hike, there were these tree stumps that had coins like hammered into them. And I thought it was really interesting, and I was wondering why. And so I looked that up and did a whole research binge on wishing wells and wishing trees and different things that developed in different cultures of making wishes on things. And so wishing trees came from like old pagan type religions. So you see it in Germany. You see it in like Celtic, like ancient Celtic. I can't words, but you get the idea. And it actually pops up in a lot of different cultures, which I thought was interesting, where the belief was that there were spirits connected to the trees, which I mean, walking through a forest, that's very believable that the trees kind of have a connection to deity, and it's and so they believed that these spirits were specifically connected to specific trees. And so in certain cultures, it's like specific trees, and in other cultures, it's just all trees. I think oak trees popped up quite a bit in in my reading, at least. And so those people would take these coins and gifts. In some cultures, it's coins, and in some cultures, it's tying ribbons to the trees. And basically, it was giving a gift to whatever spirit was there in hopes that the spirit would grant you a wish. A very similar thing popped up with wishing wells, where you had this clean water coming from somewhere. So obviously, it was a good spirit or a god of some kind that was granting you with this clean water. And so throwing coins or little trinkets or gifts in the well was a way of asking that god to bless you. And it's just a culture that has continued on. Like I said, it's in Germanic cultures, in Celtic cultures, even ancient Rome has references in some of their things to wishing wells. And I did see one thing in my reading that was, I can't remember where it was, but their wishing tree tradition was to take your shoes and throw it at the tree. And I thought that was fantastic. It's just, I just think it's so neat that so many cultures picked up on such similar ideas. Um, I know in my religion, there's a lot of talk about how nature brings us closer to God, how nature connects us and is very symbolic of our relationship with God. And so it's a very interesting thing to see it pop up in so many different cultures and so many different religions. It's not a just one area sort of a thing. It comes up everywhere, and it's a very interesting read. Um, but yeah, it's really lovely. I've I'm making goals for myself. Like this whole thing is to keep me accountable for my projects and for my goals. And so one of my goals is just to learn something new every day. And so hopefully I'll be making these videos a bit more often and just kind of trying to keep track of that. Um, the last video I made was really long, so I'm going to try and keep this one to less than 20 minutes. We'll go for 10. 10 is great. Uh, but I hope you're all doing so well, and best of luck with all of your goals and all of the things that you are doing. But I will see you all later. If you have any suggestions or any requests of topics I should cover, things I should learn about, please let me know. I would absolutely love to have something to add to my very long list because I'm always interested in new topics to look for. Um, but until the next time, have a lovely day, strangers, and I'll see you later.